In a small coastal town in Oregon, Emily Dalton lives a life shadowed by struggle. At 21, she balances part-time jobs with her studies at the University of Oregon, dreaming of a future beyond the cramped, weathered house she shares with her adoptive mother, Dorothy Dalton, and her older brother, Tyler Dalton. The air in their home is thick with tension, a constant reminder of the family's financial woes. Dorothy, a woman hardened by years of scraping by, sees Emily not as a daughter, but as a means to an end. Tyler, meanwhile, spends his days with his girlfriend, Lauren Pierce, a woman with expensive tastes and little patience for their poverty. Together, they drain every penny Emily earns, leaving her with nothing but exhaustion and a fading hope. One evening, Dorothy corners Emily in their cluttered kitchen. Her voice is sharp, cutting through the hum of a flickering fluorescent light. She demands $30,000, claiming it's the only way to cover Tyler and Lauren's debts. Emily protests, her heart sinking as she thinks of her upcoming graduation, the degree she's fought so hard for. But Dorothy's threats are relentless. She warns Emily that if the money isn't found, she'll pull her out of college, shattering years of effort in an instant. Desperate and cornered, Emily feels the walls closing in. She has no choice but to agree, though every fiber of her being resists. That night, Emily finds herself walking into a world far removed from her own. The upscale bar in Portland glitters with wealth, its polished floors and dim lights a stark contrast to the dingy streets she knows. She's out of place in her simple clothes, her hands trembling as she steps inside. Men in tailored suits sip drinks, their laughter loud and careless. Emily's stomach churns, but she pushes forward, driven by Dorothy's ultimatum. It's here, amid the clink of glasses and the murmur of voices, that she catches the eye of Ryan Mitchell. Ryan is a name whispered in boardrooms and feared in business circles. As the CEO of Mitchell Enterprises, he commands the room without effort. Tall, with dark hair and piercing eyes, he exudes a cold confidence that makes people step aside. Tonight, he's here to unwind, a glass of whiskey in hand when he spots Emily across the bar. She's different, untouched by the polished cynicism of this crowd. Her wide eyes and hesitant steps draw him in, a curiosity he can't shake. He watches as she fidgets, clearly uncomfortable, and something stirs in him, a flicker of intrigue beneath his usual detachment. A man at the bar, slick and predatory, approaches Emily first. He offers her a deal, his words dripping with implication. Emily freezes, her mind racing for an escape, when Ryan intervenes. His voice cuts through the noise, calm but commanding. He tells the man to back off, then turns to Emily. Up close, she feels the weight of his gaze, steady and unreadable. He asks her name, and she stammers out, "Emily," her voice barely audible. Ryan tilts his head, studying her. Then, in a tone that brokers no argument, he makes an offer. He'll pay her to leave with him, no strings attached beyond the night. The amount isn't specified, just a promise of enough to solve her problems. Emily hesitates, shame and necessity warring within her, but Dorothy's threats echo in her mind. She nods, her heart pounding as she follows him out. The drive to Ryan's world is silent. Emily stares out the window, the city lights blurring past. Her thoughts a tangle of fear and resignation. They arrive at a sleek penthouse overlooking Portland, its glass walls reflecting the night sky. Inside, the space is all sharp lines and luxury, a testament to Ryan's wealth. He pours himself another drink, watching her with that same unreadable look. Emily stands awkwardly, unsure of what comes next until Ryan speaks again. He asks why she's here, what drove her to this point. His tone isn't cruel, just curious, and it catches her off guard. She tells him about Dorothy, about Tyler and Lauren, about the $30,000 that's become her chain. Ryan listens, his expression unchanged, but something shifts in his eyes. When she finishes, he leans back, swirling the whiskey in his glass. He tells her she's free to go, that he's changed his mind. Emily blinks, confused, but relief floods her. She starts to thank him, but he cuts her off with a faint smirk. "You'll come back to me," he says, his voice low and certain. "Girls like you always do." With that, he turns away, leaving her to find her own way out. Emily steps into the cool night air, her mind spinning. She's escaped, but Ryan's words linger, a haunting promise she can't shake. Back in her small town, Dorothy waits, her demands unchanged, and Emily knows this is only the beginning of her fight. Emily Dalton returns to her small Oregon town, the weight of Ryan Mitchell's words still hanging over her. The $30,000 she needs feels farther away than ever. Dorothy Dalton, her adoptive mother, stands in their cramped living room, her face twisted with impatience. She berates Emily for coming back empty-handed, her voice rising over the creak of the old floorboards. Dorothy's desperation has a new edge now. She reveals she owes money to a local loan shark, a man with a reputation for breaking more than promises. If Emily doesn't deliver soon, Dorothy says, the consequences will fall on all of them. Tyler Dalton, lounging on the sagging couch with Lauren Pierce at his side, barely looks up. Lauren snaps that $30,000 isn't much, that Emily's college dreams are selfish when they're all struggling. Emily's chest tightens, but she has no words left to fight with. Days later, Dorothy makes good on her threats. She storms into Emily's room, clutching a letter from the University of Oregon. With a cold smile, she announces she's withdrawn Emily's enrollment. The tuition refund, a meager sum, is already spent, funneled to the loan shark to buy a little time. Emily stares at the letter, her future slipping through her fingers like sand. Dorothy doesn't stop there. She's found a job for Emily, she says, at a rundown bar on the edge of town. It's the kind of place where the lights flicker and the air smells of stale beer, a far cry from the polished Portland lounge. Emily protests, her voice cracking, but Dorothy shoves a skimpy outfit into her hands. "You'll work or we're all done," Dorothy hisses, leaving no room for argument. That night, Emily steps into the bar, her heart pounding against her ribs. The crowd is rough, men with calloused hands and leering grins. She serves drinks, dodging wandering hands and forced smiles, her mind numb with humiliation. Hours pass in a blur until a man named Henry Vaughn slides onto a stool across from her. He's broad-shouldered and loud, his breath heavy with liquor. He watches her too closely, his words slurring as he offers cash for more than a drink. Emily backs away, panic rising, but Henry grabs her wrist, pulling her toward him. The bar erupts in laughter, and no one moves to help. She twists free, stumbling toward the door, when a familiar voice cuts through the chaos. Ryan Mitchell stands in the entrance, his presence silencing the room. He's out of place here, his tailored suit stark against the grime, but his authority is undeniable. He strides forward, his eyes locked on Henry. With a single look, he tells the man to let go, and Henry complies, muttering curses as he slinks away. Ryan turns to Emily, his expression unreadable. She's trembling, tears stinging her eyes, but she lifts her chin, refusing to. He doesn't ask questions, just takes her arm and leads her outside. The cool night air hits her face as they climb into his car, the engine humming to life. Emily doesn't know where they're going, and for once, she doesn't care. They arrive at Ryan's sprawling villa on the outskirts of Portland, a modern fortress of glass and stone. Inside, the space is quiet, the city lights shimmering through floor-to-ceiling windows. Ryan gestures for her to follow him, and they step into a room that takes her breath away. An indoor pool stretches before them, its water glowing under soft lights, the surface still as glass. The air is warm, tinged with chlorine, and the walls curve upward to a skylight framing the stars. Ryan sheds his jacket, tossing it onto a chair, and turns to her. "You look like you need to relax," he says, his tone casual but firm. He nods toward the pool. "Get in." Emily freezes, her hands clenching at her sides. The memory of their first meeting floods back, the transactional coldness of it. She shakes her head, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "I'm not some toy for you to play with." Ryan pauses, then laughs, a low sound that echoes off the tiles. It's the first time she's seen him soften, the hard lines of his face easing. "Fair enough," he says, stepping closer. I like that about you, the way you push back. He doesn't press her further, just watches as she stands her ground, her defiance sparking something new between them. They sit by the pool instead, the water lapping faintly as they talk. Emily tells him about Dorothy's latest move, the bar, the lost college dream. Ryan listens, his gaze steady, and when she's done, he leans back, hands in his pockets. I'll get you back into school, he says, as if it's the simplest thing in the world. Emily blinks, caught off guard. Why would you do that? She asks, suspicion lacing her words. He shrugs, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. Maybe. I'm tired of seeing you run yourself into the ground for people who don't deserve it. Before she can argue, he adds, no strings, just take it. For the first time in weeks, Emily feels a flicker of hope. Ryan makes a call, and within days her enrollment is reinstated, no questions asked. She moves into a dorm on campus, putting distance between herself and Dorothy's demands. But peace doesn't last. Dorothy tracks her down, her voice shrill over the phone. She's found a new plan, she says. Henry Vaughn, the man from the bar, has offered $50,000 to marry Emily. It's enough to clear the debts and more, Dorothy insists, and she's already agreed. Emily's stomach drops. She tries to refuse, but Dorothy's tone turns menacing. You'll do it, or I'll drag you back myself, she warns, hanging up before Emily can respond. The next day, Dorothy shows up at the dorm with Tyler in tow. They corner Emily in her room, their faces set with determination. Tyler grips her arm, his fingers digging into her skin, while Dorothy pulls out a rope, muttering about teaching her a lesson. Emily fights back, her shouts echoing down the hall, but they're stronger. They tie her wrists, dragging her toward the door, when a sharp knock stops them cold. Ryan stands there, flanked by 2 security guards in black suits. His eyes narrow as he takes in the scene, and his voice is ice. Let her go. Now. Tyler hesitates, but Dorothy steps forward defiant. She's my daughter. I decide what's best. Ryan doesn't flinch. He pulls out his phone, dialing a number with practiced ease. $5 million, he says into the receiver, his gaze locked on Dorothy. Wire it to her account. She's done with you. The guards move in, freeing Emily as Dorothy gapes, greed warring with shock. Minutes later, the money hits, and Dorothy's protests fade. She and Tyler leave, clutching their prize, but Emily knows this isn't over. Ryan takes her back to his villa, the pool room quiet as they sit again. She's shaken, her wrists red from the rope, but Ryan's presence. Emily Dalton sits in the stillness of Ryan Mitchell's Portland villa, the glow of the indoor pool casting soft ripples across the walls. Her wrists still ache from the ropes Dorothy and Tyler used to bind her, a raw reminder of how far her adoptive family will go. Ryan stands nearby, his hands in his pockets, watching her with that steady, unreadable gaze she's come to know. The $5 million he paid to sever her ties with Dorothy hangs heavy in the air, a lifeline she never asked for but can't refuse. She looks up at him, her voice quiet but firm. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. Ryan tilts his head, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Maybe I see something worth saving, he says, then turns away, leaving her with more questions than answers. The next few days blur together. Emily moves into a small apartment near the University of Oregon, funded by Ryan's quiet generosity. She throws herself into her studies, determined to reclaim the future Dorothy tried to steal. But the peace is fragile. Late one night, her phone buzzes with a message from Dorothy. The words are sharp, venomous. Henry Vaughn, the man from the bar, still wants her, Dorothy writes. $50,000 wasn't enough for him to walk away, and now he's coming for what he paid for. Emily's hands tremble as she reads, fear creeping up her spine. She blocks the number, but the threat lingers, a shadow she can't shake. On campus, Emily keeps her head down, her focus on lectures and late-night study sessions. She's in the library one afternoon, surrounded by books, when a shadow falls across her table. Henry Vaughn stands there, his bulk filling the space, a smirk twisting his face. He leans in close, his voice low and threatening. "Your mom promised me a wife. I don't care what that city guy paid. You're mine." Emily's heart races, but she stands, clutching her bag like a shield. "Leave me alone," she says, loud enough to draw eyes from nearby students. Henry laughs, stepping closer, until a firm hand lands on his shoulder. Ryan appears behind him, his expression cold and dangerous. He doesn't raise his voice, just stares Henry down. "Walk away, or you won't walk at all," he says, his words carrying a weight that makes Henry falter. The man mutters something under his breath and retreats, but not before shooting Emily a glare that promises trouble. She turns to Ryan, breathless. "How did you know I was here?" she asks. He shrugs, casual as ever. "I keep an eye on what's mine," he replies, and though the words unsettle her, she's grateful for his timing. That night, Ryan drives her back to his villa, the city lights streaking past the windows. They sit in the living room, the pool room visible through glass doors, its calm surface a stark contrast to the storm in Emily's mind. She tells him about Henry's threat, her voice shaking as she admits she's scared. Ryan listens, then stands, pacing the room. "I'll handle it," he says, his tone clipped. But before he can elaborate, he stops, his gaze settling on her neck. Emily frowns, touching the spot he's staring at. "What?" she asks, and he steps closer, brushing her hair aside. There, just below her hairline, is a small, heart-shaped birthmark, faint but distinct. Ryan's eyes narrow, a flicker of recognition crossing his face. "I've seen that before," he murmurs almost to himself. Emily pulls back, confused. "It's just a mark. I've had it forever," she says, but Ryan shakes his head. He sits beside her, his voice low and deliberate. "Years ago, I worked with a family in New York, the Reynolds. They lost a daughter in an accident, a little girl with a birthmark like that. Catherine Reynolds still talks about her sometimes." Emily stares at him, the words sinking in slow and heavy. "You think I'm her?" she asks, half laughing at the absurdity. Ryan doesn't smile. "I think it's worth finding out." The idea gnaws at her. She lies awake that night, replaying Ryan's words. Could Dorothy not be her real mother? Could Tyler not be her brother? The thought is wild, impossible, but it stirs something deep, a longing she's never named. The next morning, Ryan is already on the phone, his voice sharp as he speaks to someone about records, investigations, anything that might connect Emily to the Reynolds family. She watches him, torn between hope and doubt, until he hangs up and turns to her. "I've got people looking into it," he says, "but for now you're staying here. Henry won't touch you under my roof." Days pass in a strange limbo. Emily tries to focus on school, but her mind drifts to New York, to a family she might belong to. Ryan keeps her close, his villa a fortress against the world outside. One evening, as they sit by the pool, the water reflecting the dusk sky, Emily feels a shift. She's safe here, with him, in a way she's never been before. She glances at Ryan, his profile sharp against the fading light, and something softens in her chest. He catches her looking, raising an eyebrow. "What's on your mind?" he asks, and she smiles, small but real. "Just thank you," she says. He nods, a rare warmth in his eyes, and for a moment the distance between them feels smaller. Her quiet is shattered the next day. Emily wakes to a fever, her body heavy and hot, sweat beading on her brow. She tries to get up, but dizziness pulls her back to the bed. Ryan finds her like this, his usual calm replaced by a quiet urgency. He calls a doctor, then sits beside her, a damp cloth in hand. He wipes her forehead, his touch gentle, and Emily mumbles through the haze, "You don't have to do this." He doesn't reply, just stays there, his presence steady as the hours drag on. The doctor arrives, prescribing rest and medicine, and Ryan doesn't leave her side. Through the night, he watches over her, sleepless, his hand brushing hers when she stirs. By morning, the fever breaks, but Emily's still weak. She opens her eyes to find Ryan asleep in a chair beside her, his head tipped back, exhaustion etched into his features. She stares at him, a rush of gratitude mixing with something deeper, something she's afraid to name. When he wakes, catching her gaze, he sits up, rubbing his neck. "You're a lot of trouble, you know that?" he says, but there's no bite in it. Emily laughs, soft and hoarse. "You didn't have to stay," she replies, and he leans closer, his voice dropping. "Yeah, I did. I meant it when I said I see something worth saving. I just need you, Emily." Her breath catches, his words sinking in. Before she can respond, her phone buzzes on the nightstand. Ryan picks it up, his jaw tightening as he reads the screen. "It's Dorothy," he says, handing it to her. The message is short, a demand to come home, to marry Henry, to give up everything. Emily's hands shake, but Ryan takes the phone, tossing it aside. "You're not going back," he says, his tone final. "We're going to New York. If you're a Reynolds, it changes everything." Emily nods, her heart pounding with fear and hope. Ryan stands, already planning, his determination a shield around her. As they prepare to leave, he pauses, looking at her with an intensity that makes her pulse race. "Whatever happens," he says, "you're not alone anymore." She meets his eyes, feeling the weight of his promise, and for the first time, she believes it. Emily Dalton steps off the plane in New York, the city's skyline a jagged silhouette against the evening sky. Ryan Mitchell walks beside her, his presence a steady anchor in the chaos of her thoughts. The past few days have been a whirlwind, from the fever that pinned her to bed to Ryan's unshakable resolve to uncover her past. Now they're here, in the heart of Manhattan, chasing a truth that could rewrite everything she knows. Ryan's hand brushes hers as they move through the airport, a silent reassurance that she's not facing this alone. Her heart beats fast, torn between hope and dread, but his quiet confidence keeps her grounded. They arrive at a towering hotel, its glass facade gleaming under the city lights. Inside, the grand ballroom buzzes with anticipation. Catherine Reynolds, a woman of grace and power, has spared no expense for this gala. She's the matriarch of the Reynolds family, a dynasty built on real estate and influence, and tonight, she's welcoming her long-lost daughter home. Emily stands at Ryan's side, her simple dress a stark contrast to the glittering gowns around her. Catherine approaches, her eyes soft with recognition as they land on Emily's face. She reaches out, her fingers trembling, and touches the heart-shaped birthmark on Emily's neck. "It's you," Catherine whispers, tears welling up. "My little girl." The room fills with murmurs as Catherine pulls Emily into a tight embrace, her voice breaking as she announces to the crowd, "After 20 years, I've found my daughter." Applause erupts, but Emily's chest tightens. She glances at Ryan, who nods, his expression calm but watchful. Catherine leads her to a table at the front, where a small jade box sits, its surface etched with intricate patterns. "This belonged to your father," Catherine explains, her voice steadying. "It's a family heirloom, passed down for generations. Only a Reynolds can open it, with their fingerprint." Emily stares at the box, her pulse racing. This is the proof Ryan spoke of, the key to her identity. Before she can process it, a sharp voice cuts through the celebration. Rachel Bennett steps forward, her heels clicking on the polished floor. She's a familiar face from Emily's college days, a girl who once mocked her poverty with cutting smiles. Now she stands tall, her eyes flashing with malice. "This is a lie," Rachel declares, loud enough for the room to fall silent. "Emily's no Reynolds. She's a fraud. A nobody from Oregon." Gasps ripple through the crowd, and Emily's stomach drops. Catherine stiffens, but Rachel isn't done. She gestures to the back of the room, and Dorothy Dalton shuffles in, her face a mix of greed and defiance. Dorothy clutches a crumpled paper, thrusting it toward Catherine. "I raised her," she says, her voice shrill. "She's my daughter, not yours. She's just after your money." Rachel nods, stepping closer. "I have proof," she says, holding up a folder. "A DNA test done last week. It shows Emily's not related to you, Catherine. She's been lying this whole time. She tosses the folder onto the table, papers spilling out, and the crowd leans in, whispering. Emily's hands shake, her mind reeling. She looks at Ryan, panic rising, but he's already moving, his phone in hand. Catherine picks up the papers, her face paling as she scans them. "This can't be right," she murmurs, but doubt creeps into her eyes. Rachel smirks, pressing her advantage. "She even hurt your real daughter," she says, turning to Dorothy. "Tell them." Dorothy nods eagerly, her words tumbling out. "When Emily was a kid, she pushed a little girl into a well out on Jade Road. That was your daughter, Catherine. Emily took her place, carved that birthmark on herself to trick you." The accusation lands like a punch, and Emily stumbles back, her voice breaking. "That's not true. I never did that." The room spins, voices rising in confusion. Catherine clutches the table, her gaze darting between Emily and Dorothy. "Is this real?" she asks, her tone fragile. Emily shakes her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I swear, I didn't... I don't even remember my childhood before Dorothy." Rachel laughs, sharp and cruel. "Convenient story." "You're caught, Emily. Give it up." The crowd shifts, some nodding in agreement, others looking to Catherine for a sign. Emily feels the weight of their stares, her hope crumbling, until Ryan steps forward, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. "Enough," he says, his tone cold and commanding. He holds up his phone, showing a video paused on the screen. "Rachel, you should have covered your tracks better." He presses play, and footage from a security camera fills the room, projected onto a wall. It shows Rachel meeting a man in a dingy office, handing him cash, then taking a folder, the same one now on the table. The man's voice crackles through the speakers. "Fake DNA's easy if the price is right." The crowd gasps, and Rachel's face drains of color. Ryan stops the video, turning to her. "You paid a lab tech to forge that test. We traced the money. It's over." Rachel stammers, her confidence cracking. "That's not real. You made it up." But Ryan isn't fazed. He pulls out another folder, this one stamped with a lab seal. "This is the real DNA test," he says, handing it to Catherine. "Done by my people, no tampering. Emily's your daughter, Catherine. The birthmark's natural, confirmed by a dermatologist." Catherine opens the folder, her hands trembling as she reads. Her eyes lift to Emily, wide with relief. "It's true," she whispers, pulling Emily close again. "You're mine." Dorothy lunges forward, desperate. "She's still my girl. I raised her," she snaps, but Ryan steps between them, his voice icy. "You sold her for $5 million. You're done here." He nods to security, who escort Dorothy out as she shouts, her words fading into the hall. Rachel tries to slip away, but Ryan's guards block her path. "Your family's done too," he tells her, his tone final. "Mitchell Enterprises cuts all ties with the Bennetts. Anyone who works with you answers to me." Rachel glares, defeated, and storms out, the crowd parting around her. Catherine turns to Emily, tears streaming down her face. "I almost lost you again," she says, her voice thick with emotion. She picks up the jade box, placing it in Emily's hands. "Try it. Prove it to them all." Emily hesitates, her fingers brushing the cool surface. The room watches, breath held, as she presses her thumb to the lock. Nothing happens at first, and her heart sinks. Rachel's laugh echoes from the doorway, but then Catherine grabs her hand, guiding it to a second spot. "Your father used your right thumb," she says softly. Emily tries again, and the box clicks open, revealing a jade pendant inside. The crowd erupts, applause drowning out the last of Rachel's protests. Catherine lifts the pendant, slipping it around Emily's neck. "This is yours," she says, her voice ringing clear. "You're a Reynolds, now and always." Emily touches the pendant, her eyes meeting Ryan's. He smiles, a rare, genuine warmth breaking through his usual reserve. The gala resumes, but Emily barely hears the music. She's found her mother, her truth, and in Ryan's steady gaze, something more. Catherine pulls her aside later, her expression serious. "The Reynolds legacy is yours now," she says, squeezing Emily's hand. "But tonight, Just be my daughter." Emily nods, overwhelmed, as Ryan joins them. He looks at her, his voice low. "Told you I'd fix it," he says, and she laughs, the sound light and free for the first time in years. Emily Dalton stands on the windswept shore of an Oregon beach, the Pacific Ocean stretching endless before her. The gala in New York feels like a lifetime ago, though it's only been a week. The jade pendant hangs around her neck, a quiet reminder of her true heritage as a Reynolds. Catherine's embrace, the weight of the family legacy, the triumph over Rachel and Dorothy, all of it lingers in her mind. But here, with the salt air brushing her skin, she feels something simpler, something hers. Ryan Mitchell stands beside her, his usual suit traded for a sweater and jeans, the ocean breeze ruffling his dark hair. He's been her rock through every storm, and now, in this calm, she sees him differently. The sun dips low, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. Ryan turns to her, his hands in his pockets, a faint smile playing on his lips. "You've been quiet," he says, his voice soft against the crash of waves. Emily looks at him, her heart steady for the first time in months. "I'm just taking it in," she replies, her gaze drifting to the horizon. "Everything's changed." He steps closer, his shoulder brushing hers. "Not everything," he says, and she meets his eyes, seeing a warmth there that's grown with every moment they've shared. They walk along the sand, the tide lapping at their feet. Ryan tells her about the call he got from Catherine that morning. The Reynolds empire, a sprawling network of wealth and influence, is hers to inherit whenever she's ready. Catherine wants her to take it slow, to heal from the years with Dorothy, but the offer stands. Emily listens, her mind spinning with the possibilities. She's no longer the girl who served drinks in a run-down bar, no longer the pawn in someone else's game, but the weight of it all feels distant here with Ryan beside her, his voice grounding her in the present. He stops walking, turning to face her fully. The wind picks up, tugging at her hair, and he reaches out, tucking a strand behind her ear. "I've been thinking," he says, his tone shifting, serious now. Emily tilts her head, curious. "About what?" she asks, and he takes a breath, his eyes locking with hers. "I didn't bring you here just to watch the sunset," he says, pulling a small box from his pocket. Her breath catches as he opens it, revealing a ring that glints in the fading light, simple but radiant, like the promise it holds. "Emily," he begins, his voice steady but laced with emotion. "I've spent my life building walls, keeping people out, but you walked through them like they were nothing. I don't promise you the world because you've already got it. I promise you me, every part of me, to love you, to protect you, for as long as you'll have me. Will you marry me?" The words hang between them, raw and real, and Emily's eyes fill with tears. She nods, unable to speak, and he slips the ring onto her finger, pulling her into his arms as the waves roar their approval. The wedding comes quickly, a small ceremony on the same Oregon coast. Catherine stands at Emily's side, her smile wide and proud, while a handful of close friends gather under a driftwood arch. Emily wears a dress of soft white, the pendant gleaming against her chest, and Ryan waits for her, his gaze never wavering. They exchange vows as the sun sets, promising a future built on trust and love. When he kisses her, the crowd cheers, but all Emily feels is him, the man who saw her when no one else did. Weeks later, they settle into a new life. Emily moves into Ryan's Portland villa, the pool room now a place of quiet memories rather than tension. She finishes her degree at the University of Oregon, walking across the stage with Catherine and Ryan in the audience, their applause louder than the rest. The diploma is hers, earned through years of struggle, and she holds it tight, a symbol of the strength she's found. But her plans stretch beyond herself. With the Reynolds fortune at her fingertips, she starts a foundation, funding education for kids trapped in poverty like she once was. It's her way of giving back, of turning pain into purpose. One evening, as they unpack boxes in their shared home, Ryan watches her with a grin. She's arranging books on a shelf, her focus absolute, and he steps up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "You're going to save the world, aren't you?" he teases, and she laughs, leaning into him. "Maybe just a piece of it," she replies, turning to face him. He kisses her forehead, his touch gentle, and she feels the weight of her old life lift completely. Dorothy, Tyler, Henry, Rachel, they're gone, shadows banished by the light she's claimed. Their honeymoon takes them back to the Oregon coast, a rented cottage overlooking the sea. They spend days walking the shore, cooking simple meals, laughing over nothing. One night, under a blanket of stars, they sit on the porch, the ocean's song filling the silence. Emily rests her head on Ryan's shoulder, her hand finding his. "I used to be so afraid," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. "Afraid of Dorothy, of failing, of everything, but not anymore." He turns to her, his eyes searching hers. "Why's that?" he asks, and she smiles, pure and unguarded. "Because I have you." Ryan pulls her closer, his voice low and sure. "You've always had me, Emily. From that first night in the bar, I was done for." She laughs, the sound mingling with the waves, and they sit there, wrapped in each other, the past a distant echo. The stars shine bright above, a canopy over their new beginning, and Emily knows this is where she belongs, not just as a Reynolds or a Mitchell, but as herself, loved and whole. Back in Portland, life settles into a rhythm. Emily meets with Catherine often, learning the ropes of the family business, her confidence growing with every step. Ryan stands by her, his cold exterior melting more each day, replaced by a warmth she's come to rely on. They host dinners at the villa, the pool room glowing with laughter, friends filling the space with life. Emily looks around one night, her heart full, and realizes she's not just survived, she's thrived. The story ends on that beach again, months later. Emily and Ryan walk hand in hand, the ring on her finger catching the light. She stops, turning to him, her voice soft but clear. "You changed everything," she says, and he shakes his head, pulling her close. "No, you did. I just held on for the ride." They kiss, the ocean stretching out before them, a promise of tomorrow as vast and open as their love. And so Emily Dalton, once a girl lost to the world, finds her place, not in wealth or titles, but in the arms of the man who saw her worth, and in the family she fought to reclaim. This is her happy ending, a love story written in courage and grace, a new beginning that shines brighter than the stars.